Hey, what's going on,
Here we
everyone?
are.
Welcome. It's Monday afternoon. We're a little bit later than normal, but welcome to Banner and Backbone. I'm Nick Paro. I've got my good friend and colleague Shane Yirak of the Firebrand Project, Banner and Backbone, all of the things. And we're back for episode 19 of
19,
Palantalk.
dude. Almost to the big
19.
20. How
Just
about that?
think about that. Our first episode in the new year is going to be episode 20.
That's
Um,
pretty that's
we
pretty
start
damn
on an
good.
even number. We're going to start off right. Hey, what's going on, everyone in the chat?
Morning, Cheech.
Kathy, Mary, Cheech, Heidi, Ludmilla. It's good to see you. Kim, welcome. I'm glad I got your son with us. And we're going to be welcoming on a special guest here soon.
Yes, we are. We're very
Um,
excited.
Today, we are going to be digging into Jared Kushner and the Kushner shadow diplomacy that is going on around the world. And one of the things that we're going to be talking in on about is the recent meeting yesterday. Well, not recent, yesterday's meeting in Florida with Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, where it was pretty much a pressure campaign and Russia first diplomacy. And we're going to dig into that a little bit. But really, we're going to focus on Jared Kushner. And we're going to be welcoming on Lev Parnas today. He's going to be joining us here in a few minutes. He's getting his phone charged up, making sure everything's all good. But we're going to be having an incredible discussion today around all of the things that are going on from around the world, that a lot of it is backed by Jared Kushner and his influence and his little greedy little fingerprints everywhere. And how Ivanka and Jared never really disappeared. They just went silent so that people wouldn't pay attention to them. And so, Shane, how are you, my friend?
I'm good.
With that intro for the day, welcome to our final show of the year.
I know it is. It's the end of 2020, 2025 as we go into 26. And I think for all of us, this has been kind of a time of year you always reflect. And I think this year has been unique because as we all reflect, especially myself, looking back at what, one tremendous success, we've had with Banner and Backbone and the Firebrand Project and all these things, and really the push to change our media. Because if you want to think about, little wins, think about how in the beginning of this year, we were all we were all scrambling. We couldn't agree on what was going on. There was no good place to go to get your news. And now at the end of 2025, we have really established, I think, our place here in the media network with Banner and Backbone, with this community of all of us, all of these independent journalists, whether it's Arturo Dominguez, Walter Ryan, Nick, of course, uh, you know, Ellie Leonard,
Melissa
and
Corrigan.
Melissa Corrigan. Thank you, Melissa Corrigan. And we've started to connect with some of these, mid-tier to larger folks, Lev Parnas and Dean Blundell and Zev Shalev, and you're starting to see this world of our media world start to grow and solidify to the point where we're holding big networks like Midas Touch accountable, right? To the point
Yeah.
where we're having these kind of discussions. And, there's a lot of panic out there about, we're all infighting. Don't worry, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's
so,
not infighting, it's demanding accountability and being better.
like every good system needs to moderate itself. And we need to moderate our peers. The reason we're here in America, because we're not, is because we didn't hold each other accountable. We didn't hold our politicians accountable, our news media accountable. We didn't demand the truth. And that's what we're seeing here at the end of 2025, is that the truth is starting to matter. And
Yeah.
and
And
so,
folks like Waj who come
yes,
in and
Waj,
jump in.
absolutely.
We are missing some of the names out there of some of these creators who are incredible, who are doing amazing work. Like, if you don't listen to Danielle Moody, you should. She's Waj's partner in one or two of
Oh
their
yes,
shows a
she's
week.
fantastic. I've heard a
She's
couple of
freaking
her.
fantastic.
She's
I
a
listen to her
firebrand for
stuff.
sure. She cooks. She
Yeah, I
cooks.
listen to her stuff every week. I
Yeah.
really would love to get her on a show with us sometime. Oh, and here's a great segue: is we are now going to be joined by our good friend and guest Lev Parnas. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Lev,
Good,
what's
good,
going on,
good.
man?
What's
Welcome
up,
to
guys?
Palantalk.
What's up? I'm glad to be here. My first time. I'm very
Yes.
excited. What's going on, Nick, Shane?
Oh, we're just introducing the day, talking about some of the incredible creators that we have all, and reflecting on the year so far and some of the things that have happened over the last weekend. Like, we're not going to rehash anything. You've had a couple discussions today already where you've talked about it. We're here to focus on Jared Kushner and the meeting that just happened um, in Florida with Donald Trump and Zelensky. We'll cover that briefly because I don't think there's too much
The
new.
unmeeting.
Yeah, the
Uh,
unimportant meeting of pressure
yeah.
campaigns. um, and we just want to get your thoughts, and we really want to get your insights on Jared Kushner. I know Shane has done some incredible research into him, and the three of us have been talking in the background of how we can support each other. And that's one of the things too I want to talk about, is how we can support our network's growth as a community, and how we can increase our focus and our actionability over this next year, because we really only have 11 months to win. Like, we have to win
Abs-
in 2026, and we have to build a coalition around that. And I know that's something you're big on too. You helped build the MAGA coalition, so you know how to do it. So, Lev,
That's so
welcome.
important though,
Yeah.
because like understanding that like it's like I always say, like they're like, oh dude, it's a conspiracy theory. For it to be a conspiracy, there had to be a theory. Someone had to theorize the conspiracy. So it's okay, just call it a fucking conspiracy. Like, but you also know that like you can build something, but at the same time, like I can imagine there were so many times in that, those moments where you're like, well, this could bite us in the ass, but we got to do this right now. So, it's like that kind of move fast and break things mentality. But that goes into this political, shadow diplomacy, espionage, world that we're in too. And you bet more than I'm sure anyone else know that there's so many fucking holes that if we're pursuing the truth, that we can poke at, and we just need a little bit of direction. So I'm
Shane,
so
I just
excited to be working with you more and have you here,
me
because
too.
man, we love to poke holes here, and
Oh,
it's good to have that
wh-
relationship capital to work together on those things for sure.
Absolutely, and I'm grateful for Substack too, that brought us together, that we could work together from all over parts of the world to be able to, bring truth to speak truth to power, bring truth to the people. And I just got to do a quick plug because you said it when you said shadow diplomacy. I mean, I wrote my book. It's called Shadow
That's right.
Diplomacy. Just so you
Heck
understand,
yeah.
I lived shadow diplomacy, and I just want to let you guys understand what we're seeing play out, and that's what Nick Shane are talking about is truly shadow diplomacy. You're not seeing real a politician diplomacy that being played out, which is also corrupt in its own way, which we could get into and talk about on a separate scale. But at least there are guardrails in those places. Here, when you're dealing with shadow diplomacy on the level that Trump is doing, it's way out. It's on a different level. And also, just quickly to touch on, about some of the things, because some we might have some new subscribers or some new people that haven't seen me speak earlier today about
Yeah.
some of the things that happened this weekend. I want to make it very clear that it was all meant to unite, not never to divide. Part of what I spoke to the Midas guys about was because they are the leaders of independent voices. They were the beginners there. They brought it there, but somewhere down the line, that got all somewhere combo jumboed, and all of a sudden, independent voices like us here, the three of us, are not being platformed. They're not, breaking news, not being because we don't have the Acosta or a different name behind us that gives us their, that big show draw. And that was what my whole concern and whole beef was with when it came to Midas. And Michael Cohen and everything else was separate, so I don't want to co-invite. But the
Yeah.
great part, and I want to really touch on, and I want to give props to Ben Midas and the Midas family, is that they didn't run, they didn't hide, came out, we spoke, they heard. And the most important thing is, it wasn't even hearing me, they heard you, the people. They saw all the text messages, they saw all the DMs, they saw all of the voices coming out saying, yes, we don't want to turn Substack into another Twitter, X, or corporate sponsored media. We are independent journalism, and we need to promote it and keep that. And I want to say, I give him props, because I always talk about actions being louder than words. Not only did Ben say he was going to do it, but he called me over the weekend. We spoke Sunday. We had breaking news with we went live to make sure that we gave as much exposure possible. And there's still a lot of work to do, because that's only one show. We have a lot of like you said, the one thing I'll push back a little bit is, you said 11 months. I think we have a lot of less time, and I think the quicker we take back the house, and I think this thing with the Epstein files and other things that we have that we could work with, that we could really push on, that I think we could make it a truly bipartisan issue, and start certain procedures where we'll stop Trump from doing all the other chaotic things. So with that said, but I definitely agree that it's about unification, not division. It's about getting our voices, our skills, our together, to be able to stop one thing, and that is the authoritarian dictatorship rule that's being brought upon us as Americans. Because once we get rid of that, then we could go back to disagreeing with each other. Then we could go back to debating policies and saying, I want this or I want that. That's the America we're all about, where it's built on, where we have freedom of speech, which he's taken away and basically destroyed.
Absolutely. And I think that, what you put really well, and to kind of, I think, heap my agreement on with you, and the most important thing is that you saw, that conversation with Ben, I think, and all these things. You saw progress, you saw an action, and what's most important, there's the words and there's the action. So my hope is to see that relationship, and that they continue to conduct themselves in that manner,
Yep.
that is productive, and sharing the truth. They'll continue to do so. And I think, at this point, the people will choose where they want their truth. If that's Midas, that's Midas. But I think the visibility and all of that is there, and I think that people kind of are more aware of the differences, and where they choose to go, and there's no
Absolutely.
point in fostering division anymore. We are coming into 2026. I think everyone knows where everyone stands, what our expectations are in terms of integrity, and we have work to do. We've got work to do.
That
Let's
that's
focus
right.
on the work.
That's right.
And I
100%.
I think one of those big pieces of work we have to do is talk about the shadow diplomacy pieces that are
Yes.
going on. And Lev, like you said, you wrote a book on it because you lived it, because you were part of it, because you helped run the last shadow diplomacy around Ukraine too, from the Trump regime. And so
Yep.
you know better than most what it's like on the inside and how that diplomacy works. Um, can you talk about because this we're going to focus this a lot on Jared Kushner, like we've talked about. For anyone in the audience, this is
Yep.
mostly the rest of this conversation is going to be a lot of focus into Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, the shadow diplomacy segments, and what is going on. And I want, Lev, can you give a bit of a primer on like what shadow diplomacy is and what it
Yep.
means to the Trump regime and how they use it?
Sure. Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think, Nick, a lot of people shouldn't be asking me that question, but they don't. But I think that people need to understand. So you have your regular channels of communication that are established, and then you have your shadow diplomacy, which Donald Trump has. I think maybe lots of governments and lots of maybe presidentials use it, but usually their shadow diplomacy would be considered the CIA, which would be their. That's what you would usually think of shadow diplomacy, which you consider you're still people that are work for the government and have interests, bipartisan whatever interests involved in being able to get one result. With Donald Trump, as a shadow diplomacy is different because with him, his interests come first, and because of that, especially in his first administration, he did not have all of the pieces of the puzzle in place, all of the, his loyalists that were put into all of these positions where they would do the things he needed to do. And that's why in the first administration, our shadow diplomacy was even harder, even crazier, because we were literally fighting the embassies and the diplomats and the actual people that were running the diplomacy. Like when I would go to Ukraine, I would have the Ukrainian ambassador go visit Zelensky and tell him, don't speak to Lev or don't speak to Rudy. They don't have any official role, that type of stuff. Trump has graduated in that. And let me, before I go to the 2.0 Trump, a part of the reason why Trump uses shadow diplomacy is to be able to bring messages and get and deal with peoples that are in shadowy, not your people that you would usually deal with, to be able to get achieve things that would personally benefit him and not the country. And that's why he needed people that were loyal to him and people like me, Rudy Giuliani, that were willing to go and others to the extreme to promote, put this, fake disinformation, which was our job at the time. Right now is a
Lev,
little
I
different.
want to just
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
pose
Go ahead.
something to you really quick. Sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, but I think
No,
as
no,
we're
go
going
ahead. Go
down
ahead.
this, one of the things that I did a week ago, I did a year in review, where I shared my 10 thesis that I've built over the course of 2025. Basically, and they're like, it's a predictive model. Like these are behaviors that we've observed, and one of them focuses on this. And I wanted to share that with you while we're talking about the shadow diplomacy, and just quickly as you're going, maybe this can help everyone else see maybe it's like a one sentence, right? And then your thoughts on it, and as you continue, maybe see what kind of truth that's in there versus not. I call it the Kushner or real estate diplomacy thesis. So the administration's foreign policy is built on the transactional logic of high stakes New York commercial real estate development, leverage, distressed assets, and the belief that every political grievance has a price tag. So that's kind of like a
I,
rule.
I think that was beautifully said. If you want to define the Trump 2.0 shadow diplomacy, I think that's exactly where I was going, which is different than when we ran our. The purpose of our shadow diplomacy was to be able to keep him in office, to get his opponent, dig up dirt on his opponent. This
Mm,
time they've graduated to a point where now they have all the alignments in place, and we're going to speak about Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Kirill Dmitriev, because it's extremely important. This is something I think maybe since I've joined Substack, my probably first, second, or third letter was directly exposing this axis of going back to 2017, going back to MBS, Saudi Arabia with the wealth funds and all of the interactions of when this really started going, and also digging into Kirill Dmitriev's real education here in the United States. The guy's really from Kiev, Ukraine. I mean, there's a lot that goes
yeah.
back and interaction between these people. So yeah, so I agree with you 100%. Back then, it was like I said, getting into office, staying in power. Now it's about taking over power, control, finances, and that's where Kushner is involved. And I think you said it well, because in the first administration in 2017, when Kushner met with Kirill Dmitriev for the first time in Saudi Arabia, when MBS made that meeting, Witkoff was with him. A lot of people don't never heard Witkoff's name until this administration, but Witkoff was already doing business with the Chinese and people that were actually the same Chinese that were supposed to be linked to the Biden's folks. It doesn't even get crazier. But that's a separate conversation. But Witkoff then also after that became very close to Lem Blavatnik. Lem Blavatnik is an individual, very interesting individual, because if you look at history, and I wrote about him, he's a Russian American. He's now an American, but he's an oligarch. He made his wealth and comes from the '90s. He's never been actually connected, but I could tell you just from my experience in the '90s, knowing all the people he's associated with personally, knowing all the way that he's connected directly to the top, to the Kremlin, to Putin, and that's why even in now what the Wall Street Journal is breaking after what we've been, I guess you've been writing for a while, Shane. I haven't, I'm just catching up on some of the stuff I've been talking about for already, over almost 10 months, is the connection that Putin picked Witkoff to be his, it wasn't that Trump picked Witkoff to be the, adversary, not ambassador, the, special envoy. It was Putin who picked him, and the way it transpired was through Kirill Dmitriev, through Jared Kushner, and then implementing in there. So there's a lot to break. I mean, I don't think we'll be able. We'll have to have some more. I mean, several different. Maybe we could do,
Absolutely.
weekly, especially or whatever about it
Sure.
to dissect it. But I'm definitely with you. I don't know how long my phone will last. I definitely, because I've been going strong, but I definitely have at least another 15, I think 20 minutes on it. It looks like it's. So I'm saying to you, but yeah, just ask me whatever, which word, because this is my life. I mean, I know these people very
Yeah.
intimately well, from every angle.
Yeah,
So
so Shane, I'll let you take over pretty much for
yeah.
this part. And I'll take some notes while we're going to and
Sure.
catch names. So, Lev, I've been writing all
So
the names you've been giving us down to.
one of the angles I think that's particularly interesting, especially right now. So something that just happened, pretty significant. The deal, I kind of mentioned it yesterday, but in Serbia, um,
Mhm.
they basically finally have been working on this deal in Serbia for since like early, but 2024, I believe. But they just lost their $500 million. They pulled their 500 because the president Vucic signed something called the Lex Imperialis, basically allowed them to push through some of these laws. They got pushed out. Now, what's interesting to me, and I'm curious, kind of, is I think it's really important we look at the money coming out of the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, because if you like look at Vision 2030, what it is, you see that Electronic Arts was just acquired in the largest single leverage buyout, I think, in history for $55 billion. The PIF
Mm.
acquired 93 point something percent stake in one of the biggest United States companies in gaming, which when you think about gaming, you have to understand all of the data that these companies have on Americans. And I wonder how much of the through Kushner, right? Because he like provided top secret intelligence to MBS that allowed him to do the purge and arrest all those people. How much of this, data and all of this information do you think is being provided by Kushner to the Saudis and these foreign governments in these deals?
Well, I think, I mean, they're in cahoots altogether. This is
Mm,
a power play being played because let me tell you what's really happening. So, you have what they've done. This administration is they've divided up into teamwork. So you have Witkoff, who is the point person because Putin made him the point person, and basically between all of this. And then if for Trump, you have Jared Kushner on one side, and then you have Tweedledee and Tweedledum, which is Eric and Don Jr. on the other side. Now, Kushner is also being run. The reason why Kushner is on the right is not because he's some genius, is because the real power player behind Kushner is Ivanka. Ivanka Trump is the real leader and the one. She is the chip off the old block. Don't look at her because she's pretty and because she's a woman and think she's not. She is. If Donald Trump had leave his empire to, she's the person he would leave it to, because she's as close to Donald Trump as he. Maybe not as diabolical, not as crazy, but definitely when it comes to business, it doesn't go far, and that's why you see Kushner now coming into the play, divvying up. So they've been dealing. If you take a look, what's been going on in the past 10 months, 11 months, while Trump had been the very first thing Donald Trump did is he went into the Middle East. He did these Middle East tours, and what a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people didn't notice is prior to Trump going to the Middle East tours, there's another group that was going to these Middle East tours that was called Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and Zach
Witkoff, right?
Witkoff.
Yeah.
Zach Witkoff, Steve
Mm-hmm.
Witkoff's son.
Yes.
So Steve Witkoff, because like I said, those two wouldn't be able to get out of a hold themselves, let alone put a cryptocurrency deal together. So now all of a sudden you got Zach Witkoff leading, using the Trump name, using the Trump influence, and they're taking over the cryptocurrency market by making billions and billions over there. Then you have
Does
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt real quick.
No, no,
Does Barron's name ever pop up in
He's
there?
on WLFI as a founder. He is on
yeah,
on
yeah. He's definitely this whole crypto thing, and also there was a whole big thing that he was involved with Martin Shkreli,
Yeah.
going back to put together the first Trump coin. I mean, Barron's definitely. I mean, this is a whole Trump. I mean, you could see Melania's all in now. I mean, it's this is not 2016 where people were like, now this is a 2.0 where everybody, it's a family affair, and beyond that. So yeah.
Do you
So you could, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just have one quick. Do you think that a decision supposedly, because like I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that, a lot of the earlier stuff, 2017, potentially even the relationship with MBS, um, could be maybe more Kushner direct, just because it was in pursuit of the bailout, that 1.2 billion. Do you think that Ivanka is basically acting, CEO of Affinity? Do you think that she's really like the one calling the shots, or is it more like Jared asks for approval? Like, I just kind of trying to understand the dynamic of the relationship where one end starts and one part
I
stops.
mean, I could only give you from my personal
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, please. Yeah,
From my experience, I've dealt with the two of them on a subject called cannabis. When Trump wanted to make, when we were pushing in the first administration to legalize cannabis,
right.
Trump at one point wanted to make me the nominee me as the cannabis king, and so
One
we
hell
had
of a
this.
title.
Right, so we were gonna have this dinner. We had this dinner actually, where I had 8 or 9 of the top cannabis CEOs across the country, and then Trump wanted Jared and Ivanka to take the lead on it with me too. So we had a dinner, and I could tell you that was the only time I interacted with them like in a business to see how they interact, because all of the other times was more like out there when
Mhm.
drinks, socializing. But you could really see who wore the pants in the family
Mm,
and who was in control. It was definitely Ivanka. Even
right.
from her first step by picking up a glass of wine, saying my dad wouldn't like me doing this, but and having a glass of wine.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. So Ivanka definitely wears the pants in that family.
Okay. Yeah, that's I think it's really important that, because when you're looking at these organizations, you're looking at these structures, my observation is that, any organization is a mirror of the people who make it up, right? So those same flaws, those same motivations, those same decisions, if you know who's calling the shots, if you because I do think that at this point these people are very comfortable in what they're doing, and if you could basically catch them in the act in a way that is publicized, I think it's possible, but it just takes a lot of like you're gonna have to like predict it, right? You'll have to be, in the right, like, because you can obviously tell there's a lot of steps that go into building a 1.4 billion dollar hotel on this protected land in a foreign country, right? So
Right.
that's kind of where I think that it's also important, like, to know how Ivanka operates is probably different than Kushner. And if you're trying to draw a conclusion about Kushner, but Ivanka is calling the shots in this area, it could get confusing.
Well, you shouldn't get too confusing. That's why I want to make sure it's clear. You gotta understand if you go in and when because I don't know how long my battery will last, but I think you
Sorry.
can give your audience a good Kushner background. But Kushner, those of you that don't know, was never some big powerful businessman. He comes from a family. His father was kind of like a mobster type, that destroyed the whole family, went to prison. Now he's the ambassador of France because of
It
Donald.
kills me.
You can't make this shit up. But what I'm saying to you is Kushner, even the way I think he went down, remember, either Yale or Harvard, whichever one of those, it was because of a big donation that his
Mm.
father made, not because he got into it. So Kushner was never like this, big businessman until he met Ivanka. And Ivanka, look, she is very, very smart. She is out of, like I said, when it comes to Trump family, if that's why Trump has such an affinity towards her, besides everything else. And but once she took the mother approach, and she became a mother, and she kind of took the back end approach, and now you have Jared in the front running. But at the end of the day, it's still Trump's agenda, and it's still his daughter, and it's still behind the scenes that's going on.
Yeah.
So before we lose you, because I know we will probably lose you here soon with your batteries, I want to just ask this if it fits in with anything that you've heard about Kushner or Ivanka or just Witkoff and the dealings that are going on. Is the latest deal between Trump Media Company and the $6 billion merger with TAE Technologies, a private fusion energy firm from Russia, or with connections to Russia. Um, and they are looking to potentially, like, the long-term potentials of something like that is fusion energy in the US for AI data centers, and for powering a grid, but it's through Russian companies and Russian backed interests. Do you know if there's anything Kushner related or Witkoff related, or have you heard anything about this merger and how it might impact some of these negotiations that are going on? And I use
Funny with that.
negotiations loosely.
Right. No, I understand. So that's what I don't know exactly about and I apologize if we hear in the background. I guess the things to me in my lawn also. This
It's
is
all
what
good.
life subtext all about. But I want I want to make clear that I don't know about that in particular deal you're talking about, but I will tell you this much, that one of the big plays and that's why Kushner and Witkoff are involved right now with Russian and sorry, because part of Putin's play, part of Kirill Dmitriev's play, is to get Russia back into the world, into get their oligarchy, get their money back into the world play, because their economy is going to shit. And that's what they've been working on. So it wouldn't surprise me. And actually, not only would bless you, Shane. Not
Thank you.
only we say furniture. Not only would surprise me, but I'll even go a step further to tell you that I think you're going to see a lot more, especially coming up in the new year. You're going to see a lot more push of oligarchy money coming into the United States under the pretense of, just like Trump did with the Qataris and the Middle East, like giving them a base in Idaho. I mean, you can't make this shit up, folks. I mean, I don't know how to say that, but it's going to be I keep saying that, but that's going to be the same. The next round is going to be with the Russian oligarchy, with Russian money, saying, oh, look how many billions they're investing into America. Meanwhile, what Trump is really doing is selling America out
Yep.
piece by piece
Yep.
and that's why you saw such a real divide in Mega and Marjorie Taylor Greene, because they're finally starting to see that Trump lied to them, and that he's not America first, he's Trump
Right.
first, foreigner. And so that's why, in my mission, what I'm going to go out there to do, and with the help of independent journalists like yourselves, they're going to be by my side helping me, is we're going to go out and expose all of this to that 30% of that group of far right, white supremacists, whatever you want to call them, American first group that will never vote for Democrats. But the one thing we can do is we can get him back like a bear into hibernation by showing him that Trump lied to them and getting back to that.
Yep. Yep. The truth is a potent weapon, you know, and it's like the thing I always like, it's like there's so much pain any person can tolerate before they're going to start looking around and trying to understand why it's happening to them. And 2026 is going to be the year where we pay for Trump's rise in 2025, where the bill is going to come due. Whether that's in the markets, whether that's in the abilities for Americans to afford fundamental basic necessities, whether that's in the jobs market, our manufacturing, whether that's in our standing in the global order, who our friends are, how much leverage we have over places like China. This is going to be the year where we start to, I think, see all of the repercussions of, tactless management of the United States. So I think that, people are going to start looking for truth soon. And we, like you said, Lev, we got to make sure we're ready for them when they look around. We don't want to give them a political answer. I just want to tell you what's fucking happening. You just want to tell them what's happening. Like that's what's most important is, a political lens, a Democrat or Republican lens. I'm not saying I just don't think, and I always say to Nick, I'm like, I don't want a politician. I want a legislator. I want someone who goes in and does their job, which is to
Well,
legislate,
well, I'll say this to you guys, because my battery's at 1%
Yeah,
before I
for
cut
sure.
off, so
Yeah.
we could leave properly. But I'll say this to you: the one thing I always say, and I say it all the time in my letters, I say when I speak, I say truth. Truth doesn't have color. It doesn't have red or blue. Truth doesn't have religion. Truth doesn't have any kind of ideology. Truth is truth. The truth is open to everybody, and that's what we're fighting for here. So,
Absolutely.
the truth is what we're going to get to. The New Year's coming. Yes, unfortunately, folks, I'm not gonna, like I always say, we're not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to go through some things because Donald Trump has but before I die, I want to go, please continue to do it. People can get a little bit more than all others out there do, but they definitely do good work. And my mission is to 2015 is to unite all of these independent journalists so they have also a platform on the Midas Touch and other big platforms to be able to build our community here in Substack. But for now, we need each and every one of you to subscribe. If you can become paid subscribers, and one thing that I say, please support Ukraine with now more than anything. And you can get the GoFundMe's and all the ways to support Ukraine on my Substack. Please also subscribe to all the independent journalists out there.
Yes.
And if I don't see you before the new year, guys, I wish you a happy and healthy new year.
You too,
And
Lev.
the new year's gonna be a good one. So get some energy, because we're gonna take our democracy back.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we are.
We're
Thank you
looking
so
forward
much,
to
Lev.
to working with you more, man, and having you. Thank you for joining us today, guys. We'll have Lev back for another Palantalk when
Thank
his
you,
phone has
guys.
Appreciate
battery.
you, Lev. We'll talk
Thank
to you
you,
again
Lev.
soon. And for everyone else who's still with us in our audience as Lev drops out, is we're not going anywhere yet.
No.
It will be a slightly shorter episode today. I won't be able to stick around for Space Talk today. I've got some stuff that I've got to take care of outside of Substack world for family things, good stuff.
We're providing you Lev as compensation for the absence of Space Talk.
Yeah, we got
So
Lev
come back
Talk
next
today,
week.
not Space Talk.
Yes, you'll get your Space Talk next week, for sure.
Yeah, and I want to make sure too is as Lev was dropping off there, one of the big things he was talking about at the end was Ukraine and support for Ukraine and our allies and our friends around the world and those we care about. and those we want to see in the vanguard of democracy. Ukraine is the vanguard for democracy right now. And I will include also the links for the GoFundMe's in the post show notes. And if y'all have noticed, we have started cross posting some of Lev's articles. That drives traffic right back to Lev. So when you look at it, yeah, it might land on our page with like a little quote at the top saying why we reposted it or restacked it or cross posted it. But we're going to be putting out as much information on Ukraine as we can to support our friends and our allies. Because shit like what Jared Kushner is doing in Ukraine and around the world is causing these events. Like the meeting yesterday, and we didn't really get into it too much with Lev around the meeting in Florida, which is okay because it was kind of a nothing burger of a meeting. We knew exactly what was going to happen. Lev pretty much told us before the meeting what was going to happen, and that's what it turned out to be. Is it's just going to be a pressure campaign on Zelensky. Zelensky's going to come in and say, here's a couple points that I kind of agree to, and then in the background nothing's going to change. So how do you see from your investigation into Kushner, Shane, how do you see Kushner's fingers in this, or do you see him at all in this arena right now around Ukraine specifically and the secessions and this Russia first policy?
I think if my perception, my understanding is wherever Kushner is, you should look for business/money movement. Why is Kushner there? My reasoning is pretty simple. Kushner's job is to find a way to facilitate the movement of either American money or Russian money to gain access to key Ukrainian resources in Ukraine. And the situation in the Donbass happens to contain a lot of Ukraine's most important resources. So in April, the United States signed a rare earths mineral deal for access to the I fucked that up, but Shivenskiv lithium deposit in the Donetsk region. Okay. In June, that was seized by the Russians. Okay. So there were those weeks, right, where the US was like seemingly backing Ukraine. And then we started going back down this road. And I think Kushner's job has always been to get money from someone who that money shouldn't, or resources from someone whose money shouldn't be going to the US or shouldn't be involved with the regime, and get it into the pockets of the wealthy oligarchs, the Trumps, the Witkoffs. That's his job. So, you see the same thing with his involvement in Gaza. You see the same thing about him with the Saudis, the Qataris, the Emiratis. That's where Kushner is. That's his job, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, the reason he's there is because they are desperately trying to find a way to work with Russia to get access and get access to resources that they are not getting from China. And so what Kushner's role, I think, there at the moment is pretty simple in that he's trying to find a way to sneak that money through. And these meetings probably aren't just with Putin. I would say after they go and meet with all of these business executives and try and figure out a way to get money through probably something like Affinity Partners, or perhaps a Saudi or Qatari or Emirati medium into the United States, and so that's where Kushner is. And we actually had Lev on earlier. He had to drop off because his phone was dead, gonna die. But we did. But that's my take. I mean, do I know exactly how they're doing it? I'd have to look. I haven't looked explicitly. exactly. But, looking at the situation surrounding it, particularly this lithium deposit and the scramble for lithium that you're seeing in Latin America, it would make sense to me that they're just also trying for, an alternative here. They're basically playing all of their cards because the situation in terms of our access to resources that they need for their tech push is very limited right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you said it really well there at the end is they're playing all their cards.
Yeah.
They also don't feel like there's going to be repercussions for their actions, so they are playing their cards and they're playing them very openly, which
Mhm.
is for us beneficial
It
because
is.
we get to see all the dirty shit that they're doing. And if we do not normalize it, and if we do not let it become the norm, we as citizens of the US, of citizens around the world, can collectively say no, because this is not a US issue only. This is a world issue. Like, we have to, as the world collectively, as citizens of our pro democracy countries, as just citizens who care about freedom and dignity, we have to collectively come together. Like, we have to coalition build across any aisle at this point, except for some. Like, I'm not going to coalition build with pedophiles. If you're a pedophile, stay the fuck away from me. Like,
Fuck, dude, you
please
belong in jail. I don't give a
fuck
shit.
off.
Yeah,
Like,
get the fuck out
yeah,
of here.
like go the fuck away. Like, I don't mind if you've gone to jail for like being a mobster or helping shadow diplomacy the last time around, say Lev Parnas, who was a shadow diplomacy individual who has spoken out and is a whistleblower against all of this, is we just need to stop normalizing it. We push back as though it is abnormal, and we shift the discussion back into a place where it should be, where we shouldn't have businessmen like Jared Kushner who are not hired by the government running diplomacy. He's not a diplomat. What he's
No.
doing would be more or less at this point is he is a registered foreign agent or an
Yeah.
unregistered foreign agent if he
Just
hasn't registered, because he works for and with Saudi Arabia and MBS, and he works for and with Russia, and nobody talks about it. And
right.
that's foreign assets. That's what a foreign agent is.
Yeah. I
And
want to
that's what
share
he's doing.
something too, because I think you said it, and like we're talking about how they're playing their cards. I want to be clear. This type of play we're looking at, guys. This is a desperate play. This is not the play that you want. Okay, like if you're a dictator, if you're an autocrat, okay, you don't want the publicity. You don't want to have to do this in the open. The fact that they're relying on kinetic conflict, active conflicts and military intervention highlights, and you can look at the numbers. I don't need to say, like, you can look at the numbers, which I have. The situation in the US to get access to these things is desperate. They are desperate because and that's why you're seeing them just go absolutely crazy in Latin America. I mean, like the this Monroe Doctrine, esque action that we're seeing in Latin America, this just blatant collaboration with Russia in Ukraine to get access to these things. Guys, this is a desperate move. And I want to make sure that, the more desperate you are, the more mistakes you make. And I assure you that they are making mistakes right now. Like, everything they're doing arguably is going to bite them in the ass. And it shows weakness more than anything else. And
Yeah,
so I want to point that out, because I don't want people to. I am more confident than ever that they are more vulnerable than ever. I will say
agreed.
that, based on their actions, based on the numerical, like the import export numbers, based on how much money these companies have made in investments versus how much actual annual profits they've recorded, how many orders they have versus how many orders they can make, right? Like, the numbers don't back the hype, and you can only fluff it up for so long.
Yeah,
And so it's really important, that we see the subtext in a conflict like Ukraine, and why Jared Kushner is there and what role he serves. And that's kind of one of the things that I've spent a lot of time writing about. You see this QR code up in the corner, the Kushner files, where I talk about in the first one his relationship with MBS, the second one kind of how he got his start, and the third one that I'm actively writing about Affinity Partners, his company that does basically what he's doing now, which is moving money from foreign agents, foreign entities into the United States, and helping, align financial interests of wealthy foreign backers with the regime to kind of sell the United States piecemeal.
Yeah, and I want to clarify a comment I made earlier too around the TAE technologies. I'm going to start doing some research into them, a lot more deep dive into them, because I think there is issue there. We've got a lot of things we're talking about here on Palantalk in general. We've got our generative AI in the military. We've got the shadow diplomacy and the tech oligarchs who are trying to take over, and it all does link together. But I want to make sure I put a clarifying comment on what I said about TAE Technologies and their investments. I did a quick research into them. For now, there are links to Russian investments in some of their earlier funding rounds. They're seen, and I'm going to continue to verify and make sure and dig further in to this on what secondary means they've been using recently, and did they stop just being like a background of here's our state-owned company. There's a company called Rusnano, Rusnano, whatever you want to call it. Rusnano, and it's a technology company that's state-owned, and it's a state-associated and state-owned entity.
You know what I could tell you? I'm curious about that relationship, particularly is what they sell. The reason I say that is Russia cannot access a lot of important things due to international sanctions.
Yeah.
The interesting idea of it being a tech company, and then you have a relationship between them, potentially is you have a means for these critical things that they have a shortage of, particularly refineries and energy infrastructure that they cannot fix because of sanctions on these companies going into Russia. I'd be curious to see, particularly when you're looking, I would encourage you to look into what they're selling, and not just what the documentation is like on paper, but what the transactional relationship looks like. Are things going into Russia or out of Russia? That is the first question I have when I hear that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm looking at too, just on a top level of research for them, just top level questions around them. And yes, I do use AI to help me do research. It is a great tool
We all
to help.
do.
We all do.
We all do.
If you don't use AI to help you collect research, you're probably doing it wrong. And if you do, you should be asking it to cite its sources and give itself and ensure that it's doing logic checks and validating that sources are real and that are linkable, and then have it give you a rating of its own answers of the quality. Have it self-evaluate the quality of its answers and see what is like is this a high quality answer? Is this a low quality accuracy rating? Make it do accuracy ratings, because then you'll see it actually process information, and you'll see the queries like start to pop up a little bit as it does some of its primary research. TAE Technologies I'm going to look into it a lot more, but like I said, they've had Russ Nano. They have been primarily, their major investors are Google, Chevron Technology Ventures, NEA, Sumitomo, which is a Japanese-owned company, Goldman Sachs, as well as, obviously the recent merger with Trump Media, private sector donations. But their primary funding sources have been from some of these. We've got, like I said, Google, Chevron, and Goldman Sachs, and large institutional investors, which means there's probably a lot of money in the background on who those institutional investors are and where that money comes from. And we know companies like Palantir and Jared Kushner and Peter Thiel through Palantir and all those little sub companies, they like to make shell companies that invest in others so that their connection is 2 or 3 degrees separated. They don't like to put themselves directly connected. They always like to have 2 or 3 degrees of separation
Correct.
from the source transaction. So I'll be looking into this more. I know there's a lot of shit that we talk about.
Yeah, and if you ever want to like just ping me, just say, hey, what questions does this make you think of? I do it because like
Yeah,
I think that's with all of you guys here, this is our best show ever, by the way, guys. 1,000 of you joining us today, fantastic, super
yeah, this is
super
amazing.
happy
Thank
to
you all
have
for
you with
being with
us,
us.
and hope you come back every Monday, because that's what this show is about. It's about truth, it's about transparency, it's about getting to the heart of the issue, and what I think is really important is as you guys go about your research, as Nick and me go about our research, is not the first question. It's what question do you have after that? Because, like he said, they're always 2 to 3 degrees removed. The truth is never visible. Like the thing we need to understand here. What if you watch a lot of Palantalk, you'll see the truth is that you're never going to get the answer that is true with your first question. You'll get a clue. You'll get a clue. You'll get a clue to get you the question you have to the next answer. And eventually you do that with enough things. You do that with enough companies. You do that with enough meetings. You do that with enough historical events, whatever it may be. You get to a point where you can skip those first 3 steps because you know how these people work, guys. The world is run by people, okay? All of these bad people are still people. People are habitual as fuck. They do the same thing over and over again. If it works, they do it again. And so we should treat corporate and political corruption like any other crime. There is a a memorandus operandi. How is it? MO. An MO. They got an MO. There's always an MO. Profile them because people are people. And that's what I do. That's why I'm able to find these things, because I profile these people. And I could meet with these people and I could probably tell you what their answer, their response to my question would be, because guys, we live in an age where everything is reported on every day. Second, modus operandi. Thank you. Like I'm a primarily secondary source reporter. I report on a, background, a long, history of reporting. And I use that to tell the story because it's all there, guys. So what they count on is us not asking the follow-up of the follow-up. And that's the quickest way to the truth is understanding that they're not going to remove themselves more than 2 to 3 degrees because they don't think it's necessary.
Correct.
And they stop covering their ass at a certain point.
Yeah, and that's what we want to get into too. On that's what I'm going to start getting into on some of this is like what is the 2 to 3 degrees separation and who are those key figures and are they names that we already know and have talked about? Because I bet some of them are. I bet a couple of them are names that we know and are familiar with, and will probably lead back to folks like Jared Kushner, Kirill Dmitriev, MBS, Steve Witkoff, or Zach Witkoff, or Len Blavatnik, or Eric and Don Jr., and Aaron, Ivanka, all of it, all of those around him, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, JD Vance. We haven't talked a lot about JD Vance recently, and I know I still owe people a discussion on Acre Trader, and some of the venture capital funding sources that JD Vance goes or has and owns and is in partnership with at times, or has been a partner for or worked with, whatever. He makes a lot of money doing stuff that he shouldn't still have business dealings with, and it's affecting buy-ups of farmland in the U.S. into corporate farming, and those are not owned all in its entirety by U.S. interest. And so we're going to dig into more of this, and we're hitting right at the hour. That's why I'm sort of wrapping us up a little bit. I know we would normally, for everyone who's with us, we would normally shift into our last half an hour of where we go into space talk and we talk space topic, but instead, like we said, Lev Parnas for half an hour, 45 minutes today.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good discussion, and we're going to have him back for some more. We're going to work on trying to get
We'll
a
see a
more
lot more. You'll
standard
see a lot more
show.
Lev. We'll be working more with Lev in the future.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking to see. I saw Zev Shalev jump into our chat as
What's going on,
well.
Zev?
And so everybody go follow Zev Shalev as well. Go
Absolutely.
follow Dean Blundell. Go follow Ellie Leonard, Melissa Corrigan, Lawrence Winterman, Walter Ryan, Evan Fields,
Arturo
Christopher
Dominguez.
Goldsmith, Arturo Dominguez. Follow all of our community, because that's what we're doing. We're building a community of creators who listen to what you guys talk about, and we're going to get that information out. So we're going to get more of Zev on our shows. We're going to try and get we're going to set up with Dana Dubois. Yeah, Jessica, thank you for throwing Dana in there too. She's freaking incredible. All my friends at Sick of the Ship Publications, like Stephanie Wilson and Beth Cruz and Sosa, like we have an incredible community that we're building up around us, and it's important that we work with each other and support each other. Wajahat Ali, Qasim Rashid, like folks like that who are true truth tellers and who are putting information out, and we're working with the community. And I talked about Danielle Moody earlier. She's fucking badass, by the way. If you're not following Danielle Moody, like, you're wrong. Go follow her and listen to her stuff. She's freaking incredible. Like, the list could go on and on and on of all the names: Marlon Weems, Malcolm Nance, like all the names of us who are jumping in and doing this work. Is we're coming together. We're all having very similar ideas at the same time of what we can do to action. And one of those is not only stepping up our work here with additional shows and additional information and content that gets out with Shane and Lev, me, Shane and Lev, others with Lev, Zev coming on, and Ellie, and like voices like that, is continuing to increase our efforts on places like supporting Ukraine, and ensuring that we have the GoFundMe links for direct donations to Ukraine, through, rather than having to pay for a subscription. Go donate to Ukraine. Like, that's just as fine. Like, go donate to Ukraine and support, or donate to Feeding America and support Americans. But what we want to do is be able to do that and get that message out there. And we're not a status quo group. We're not trying to get just the bare minimum. We're going to use this chance too to increase our collaborations with folks like Sherrod Sweeney and Gavin Favor at Centered America, because
Centered
the work
America,
that
guys.
they're doing is fucking important. They're working alongside and supporting Indivisible, and they're learning from one of the Indivisible groups, and we're going to be working with them to get playbooks and information out, so people know how legislation actually works and how we can actually get real legislation in that people want and people desire, that don't suck, and we can get our goals accomplished during these next months too, and we don't have to wait. So we're trying to build an incredible community of subscribers, of followers, of creators. The list goes on and on. I see all these names coming into our chat of other incredible creators who are just out there, like, so many. We could do an episode probably just sitting here just saying names of creators who are incredible and what they've done. And everybody would be like, yeah, that's an amazing episode. Thanks for telling us. We may do that at one point, but not today. But what we are going to do is we're going to close out our show for today. Your weirdo friend. Weirdo is freaking awesome. Yeah, Weirdo's so cool.
Right.
We're gonna shift over to how people can support us now, and including Lev. Don't worry, Lev's QR code's gonna come up here next. Is support everyone at Banner and Backbone here at the
Yeah.
network. I'm building this tool as a collaborative platform and a space so that we can unify these efforts and have more than just the Midas touch, and more than Lincoln Square, and more than Find Out, and all of the other good top level podcasts that are above us, the Contrarians, those groups, the people who are already out there. We're something new. I'm not trying to build a newsroom. I'm trying to build a collaborative space where we can have the tools we need that we own and that we manage, such as deep research tools. Shane and I are talking about how do we set up and build our own deep research tools, and how do we build and manage tools that actually give us truth and send out information that's useful to people, and don't sugarcoat it, because that's not what we're about here. We want to give you truthful information, actionable content, and your ability to engage in civics again and re-engage your patriotic duties. So come support Banner and Backbone, free or paid. Either way, does not matter. Free or paid. Paid helps us get onto those bestseller charts on Substack. That's great. Um, but free helps us get the word out. Like, help us get the word out and be part of our community. And then next, he doesn't really need selling himself, but like, we're going to sell him anyways. Is come join Lev at Lev Remembers, scan his QR code, become a free or paid subscriber, get all of the updates from Lev. He puts out shit all the fucking time. He is right a lot. Like, the amount of times this dude has been right is through the fucking roof. That's scary. Like, he shouldn't be right, but he is. He's right on so much stuff. Go follow and support his work so that he can continue getting this information out there, so that we can continue building this system. It sounds like Lev has some incredible ideas for what's coming up this year, and it sounds like Shane and I are going to be a part of the efforts there to get all of this done alongside our friends like Ellie and Zev and Dean and Melissa and everyone else that we've listed. So come support Lev, come support his work, and help us get the word out on Ukraine. Help him get the word out on all the inside scoops. Yeah, Lev bats 1,000 every single time. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to do that. And this man is consistently giving us good information, and he's being truthful. He's learning. He's growing as a creator and as a person, and you can see it. And he's fun to watch because he gives out good information. So, and he gets great. He's had some really good people on for interviews and discussions, especially like this morning, the lawyer he had on for the Epstein survivors. Incredibly important interview. Go watch it if you haven't already. So support Lev. And then my boy, Shane Yirak. Shane, I don't need to sell you, but I always do, is you're freaking awesome, dude.
Thanks, bro.
Like, if nobody knows Shane yet, you're wrong. Again, at this point, like, Shane is so important. He's doing so much investigative work behind the scenes, and he's putting together so many questions and asking the right ones and digging information out that's going to help end this regime. So come support Shane. He's doing a freaking fantastic job. He's also a young dude who's just here and doing the right thing, and is taking his civic responsibility and civic duty seriously. He's also a good friend. So come support my buddy Shane Yirak. Shane, sell yourself, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Nick. And you're gonna have to let me sell you next, because fair is fair.
I'll try.
But guys, my goal has always been truth, transparency, to change the national dialogue through helping build a firebrand, the Firebrand Project. What is that? What's a firebrand? A firebrand is someone who speaks out against what's wrong, who speaks out and fights when change is needed, and you hold the torch to the truth and you force people to see it, guys. That's what the Firebrand Project's about. It's not my picture up there. It's not about me. I'm the first step in a chain. The 5,300 of you guys who are firebrands, you guys are the next step. You guys are the torch bearers. And I, I'm asking you to come support me at the Firebrand Project. Bring your Firebrand spirit. Get yourself armed with the truth, and get out there. And our tagline is forging dialogue and burning bright. So every day, guys, I do a news report, and it's going to come up here actually in about an hour and a half. It's 2 p.m. PST, 5 EST, 4 CST. Come join me. I talk about what's going on in the world. I write, and I do investigative journalism, and I just give you guys the questions to ask. And eventually, with support, guys, we're going to grow into a think tank, a research and organization that is just focused on truth. That's it. I want to bring a bunch of really smart researchers together and just do the work that needs to be done. So if you guys support the Firebrand Project, if you become a paid subscriber, that's where we're going. That money is not going to, I need to pay my bills. And after that, I'm building the think tank. So, that's what you're supporting at the Firebrand Project. That's what we do. And I really hope that you guys come and hang out with me today during my live stream here in a little bit as well. But yeah, I hope you come free, paid, all help. And I'm grateful for all you guys for joining us today.
Thanks, man. And then finally, I'll let you talk first, Shane, on this one.
Thank you.
Since you
Guys, Nick Paro, he's been one of my friends. This is our 19th episode. And I remember when we were both down in our measly, 2,000 subscriber days, right? Where, we were just getting started. And Christina, who's here with us today, actually, thank you, Christina. She messaged me and said, you should talk to this guy, Nick. And we did. We had our first live stream, and we both love to talk. We don't like to shut up. We interrupt each other, and it doesn't bother us, and he's he's a poet, he's a musician, and he's a man who fucking cares about America, about, the Constitution, what's right, what's wrong. And he does it, not because he has to, but because he knows that he needs to be the person that he is. So I'm infinitely grateful to be good friends and partners with Nick as we've done this. We've definitely grown side by side and supported each other. And Nick is building Banner and Backbone pretty much by himself, guys. I mean, he is really putting in the work, and support him, either, support Banner and Backbone, but also support Nick directly at Sick of This Shit, because he does great work. He talks about, chronic illness. He talks about, what it is to be human in this time, and to be a parent, and to, focus on what it is to be people going through this time and taking care of yourself. So guys, go support Nick. And, Nick, you can sell yourself as well. You pile on there. But
I appreciate you, Shane. That means a lot. And I'm so glad that I've gotten the chance to get to know you over these last however many weeks, 19 weeks plus, because we've been doing it longer than that.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have a family again, outside of my family, a community that I can come to and hang out with and do the things that I need to outside of, and not spew political information at my wife all the time and my kids.
It saved our relationships, I think. I think
yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, I was sick of it. And as Christina, who did connect us together, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. I remember that you did that for us, and just reached out to both of us and were like, hey, come talk to this guy. They're cool. I want you to do this. You really enjoy it. Is I get away from some of the politics at Sick of This Shit publications. I talk chronic illness. I talk men's issues. And I'm trying to help build a manosphere that doesn't suck, because I was sick of the shit and I am sick of the shit that's going on. And I want to create a space where men can learn to be creative, can remember that they have emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, and that those of us with chronic illnesses, no matter what gender you are or where you align yourself in the world, is chronic illness doesn't care. Like chronic illness is there for all of us, and we need community for each other, and we need to feel seen and validated and heard, and talk about the things that are going on in our lives. So come join me at Sick of This Shit Publications, where it's slightly less political than it is here on Banner and Backbone. Again, come support the network that's helping me build all of this. You guys are so amazing for being here. This is our last show of this year. We will be back next week, so don't worry. We're not taking a break out of the weeks. We'll be back next week for episode 20. We don't know the exact theme yet, but we'll be continuing probably to dig in on Kushner in this end. I may bring some. You'll need to give me a week or two to at least dig into the TAE stuff, and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. We'll
I,
definitely lots to talk about, right? We're all about the tech, but no fascism. So
heck yeah.
yeah,
This is Palantalk, y'all.
It's Palantalk, and it starts with Palantir, and it all is tied together, guys. So
it's the 3 degrees of Peter Thiel
yes.
in our modern age, and I want to wish everyone in our audience a happy New Year.
Yes.
Be safe over your New Year's. Take care of yourself. Set goals, and then go for them. And then action on them. Don't just set goals. Set strategic and smart goals for yourself to action on, and make sure one of those goals is to work on saving democracy. Yeah. Because we need all of us in this fight.
Be a firebrand, guys.
Oh yeah, be a firebrand. Be a tech no fascism lover who loves technology and AI and these tools, but hates the fascism. And let's change it. It's power to the people. And that's what we're doing. So y'all are freaking amazing. Thank you all for being here with us. We have almost 1,200 people in the audience right now on Substack. Smash the heart one last time and hit the subscribe button in the top left corner if you are on Substack to subscribe to Banner and Backbone, Shane, myself, and Lev Parnas. We wish you guys all a great year and great close to the year. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
We got a busy 2026, guys, but that doesn't mean, I think to a degree, we've all been desensitized to the shock. So it's time to just put our heads down and get to work. So, enjoy, like Nick said, Happy New Year to you. Be safe, be kind, focus on those moments with your family, try and create space at home and space for our goals here. In fighting for our democracy, because you got to have both. But guys, we'll see you next year. Thank you for joining us for Palantalk. Thank you to Lev Parnas, who unfortunately his phone died, so he was only here for the first part. If you didn't see the part with Lev, when the recording comes out, go back and watch the beginning. You don't want to miss that, I promise.
Recording will be later. We'll be out later today. It may be tonight. It may be tomorrow. I'm going out for dinner tonight, so who knows? But everyone, have a great night. Have a great day. Fight for democracy. Fight for your communities. Build your communities strong. And come back next week to Palantalk, where we like